In a dreamy return to Hitagashima, Shinpei has a flashback starring Ushio, his late friend who's got a bit of a thing for cryptic messages. She's all like, hey, find and protect Mio, but before Shinpei can get a word in, he crashes into something. Or someone. Waking up, he realizes he's bumped into a woman, earning a slap for his clumsiness. Back on the island, Shinpei's memory lane tour reveals it's a cozy place with just 700 souls, thriving on fishing and tourists. He's here after a 2-year gap for Ushio's funeral, and let's just say it's not your typical island getaway. As he steps off the boat, Mio, Ushio's sister, literally crashes into him on her bike and then plays it off like she meant to take a dip. Smooth, Mio, smooth. Chit-chatting their way to the funeral, Mio talks about the island's changing faces while Shinpei ponders over how he's now a Tokyo guy. At the funeral, he reminisces about being adopted by Ushio's family after losing his own. He regrets not making Ushio curry one last time, a classic case of next time syndrome. Su, Ushio's brother, is understandably a mess and offers himself as a punching bag for Shinpei's grief. But Shinpei, cool as a cucumber, stays calm amid the sea of tears. Post-funeral, Shinpei whips up some curry because nothing says comfort like a good meal. Meanwhile, police officer eavesdropping outside spots Mio. Later, Su drops a bombshell over the phone. Ushio's death might not have been an accident. Marks on her neck suggest something more sinister. They were playing on a secluded beach when Ushio went to save Shiori from drowning, but no suspects were spotted. Mio, emotional yet adorable, hands Shinpei Ushio's necklace and sneezes into his shirt, a real classy move. She resolves to stop crying, saying Ushio wouldn't want her to be sad. The next day at Elaine's diner, where Shinpei helps out, a drunk customer stirs up a mystery about a woman with glasses. Enter Tetsu, the island's lone cop, with news that the Kobayakawa family has vanished overnight. Debt theories float around, but Mio's not buying it and dashes off, with Shinpei in hot pursuit. Mio admits she saw Ushio's shadow too, just days before her death. Deciding to investigate, they head to Hito Shrine, only to find it locked and someone lurking in the forest. Following a gunshot, they find the glasses woman from Shinpei's bump-in, now with a bullet wound. But wait, there's more. Mio turns action hero, holding another Mio hostage. Plot twist, Shinpei wakes up on the boat, back at square one, and guess who he bumps into again? Yep, the glasses woman. Shinpei's island adventure starts with a dream so intense, it's like watching a CPR tutorial gone wrong. He's dreaming of Ushio's dramatic final moments, but surprise, it's just a bumpy boat ride to Hitagashima. Round 2 with the mystery woman leads to another slap ouch, and an awkward conversation about being shot. Landing on the island, Shinpei's got this eerie feeling of déjà vu. Mio makes her grand entrance, bike and all, and takes a spectacular dive into the water. Shinpei, detective hat on, notices the bike's brake wire is sabotaged. The funeral feels like a rerun, and Shinpei's getting those "I've seen this episode before" vibes. Post-curry, he steps out for air and stumbles upon a scene straight out of a horror flick. Mio, or rather not Mio, goes all psycho killer on Tetsu. Shinpei's mind, well, that escalated quickly. Shadow Mio and Shadow Tetsu have a quick meet cute over a vanishing corpse, and Shinpei's caught eavesdropping. Oops, as Shinpei's bleeding out, he floats away like he's in some weird out-of-body balloon ride. Ushio's voice pops in, reminding him to protect Mio. Next thing he knows, he's back at square one, with Mio and her bike. This time, he's the hero, stopping her bike with his body and taking a swim he didn't sign up for. Mio, ever the rescuer, dives in after him. Meanwhile, Hizaru's living her best life upside down in a tree, vlogging like she's on a bizarre nature show. Day 47 on Hitagashima. I ate fish and hung upside down. Brain power 100%. She's got her eyes on Shiori, playing the world's most intense game of I Spy. That evening, Shinpei's playing chess with fate. He tricks Tetsu into a wild goose chase to avoid another not Mio incident. Then he turns into a tech wizard, clearing his phone for a secret spy mission. His new gadget, a phone camera to catch Shadow Mio in action. Amidst all this, Shinpei discovers his eyes changed color. When did I join a sci-fi movie, he wonders. In a moment of pure genius, he decides to peek in the bathroom and gets a shower head greeting to the face. Note to self, bathroom spying is a bad idea. Come morning, it's show and tell time with Mio. Shinpei plays the eerie nighttime footage, dropping the bombshell about the shadow wanting to replace her. Mio's mind is blown, connecting the dots to Ushio's shadowy encounter. Shinpei tells Mio that he saw a shadow copy a human. Mio states they should talk with Shiori as she saw her shadow too, however, Shinpei stops her, not wanting to put Mio at risk and wants to go alone. Shinpei's day on Hitagashima Island takes a turn for the Twilight Zone when he teams up with Shiomi to play a game of Why is the grocery store closed at Koba Mart? Inside, they find a dinner table frozen in time and a TV auditioning for a ghost show. Shinpei, channeling his inner Sherlock, spots black stains and dents on the floor that scream shadow shenanigans. As the black stains are adult size, Shinpei decides to check the second floor for Shiori. Going there, he tries to turn on the lights, but notices a flash behind him. Shiori stands behind him and asks him why he asked her yesterday if she had seen a girl like her. She wonders why is he staring at her and if there is something wrong with her. Shinpei then realizes that Shiori is a shadow and she was at the funeral. As Shiori creates a shadow, he realizes that the flash at the funeral already afflicted with him a shadow sickness. Shiomi then comes and Shiori decides to leave. He figures that he can save the woman with glasses this time and starts looking for her at various inns. However, no one seems to have seen her. He asks Nakamura, but he tells him he gets many visitors. Wondering how to describe her more, Shinpei states he has large bust and Nakamura immediately realizes for who he talks about, but explains she only visited his coffee shop. Shinpei then returns to Kofun's diner, where Tetsu comes and is about to ask him about the fake fight he reported, but Shinpei asks him if he wants the usual and Tetsu confirms. Tetsu reveals that Kobayakawas are missing and that a detective from mainland will be coming this evening. As Tetsu's reaction is different, Shinpei realizes it's the real one and not a shadow. Tetsu then hands a phone to Shinpei and Mio recognizes it as Ushio's. Tetsu explains that Ushio came a day before she died and gave him the phone, telling to give it to Shinpei if something were to happen to her. Su comes and Shinpei decides to tell him everything, and that Mio is the next target. Su wonders if they can recognize who is a shadow, but Shinpei isn't aware of any way. Mio suggests they go to Haruko, but recalling that Shadow Mio is there, Shinpei wants to avoid it and wonders about tomorrow. Su reminds him that tomorrow is the festival, and it's going to be the busiest time of the year for the shrine, thus the priest won't have time for them. Before leaving, Su suggests they come with a code and Mio suggests Mesopotamian culture. Shinpei and Mio head home, but it starts to rain. While waiting it to stop, Mio wonders how long will Shinpei stay as she kinda wish he to stay forever. She then gives him the shell necklace that Ushio wore, stating she should be happy if he had it. The next day, Shinpei still haven't found a way to unlock Ushio's phone. Su, Takiko, and Mio come to pick him up for the festival. Shinpei wonders what Su wanted to check out yesterday, but Su states it's nothing and wants they to go. They go to the festival, and while Shinpei is alone with Su, he shares that he promised to protect Ushio, but wasn't even here when she needed him. Su tells him that it's not his fault and he needs to protect Mio now, however, if he doesn't, Su will do it instead. Shinpei then realizes that Su still has feelings for Mio. Mio then comes, wondering what they talk about and panicking. Su states they were discussing what they like more, butts or melons. Mio gives Shinpei a strange look. Takiko finds it interesting and reveals that Shinpei walked in the bath while Mio was there and asks him what are his feelings for Mio. Shinpei reveals he cares for her as family. Su reveals that his father told him that once the fireworks end, the priest would be free and they can go in. Shinpei then sees Ushio in the crowd and runs after her. He follows her to the beach and sees her standing in the water. In a twist worthy of a soap opera, Ushio is back and convinced she's alive again, complete with memories of dying and a last-minute love confession for Shinpei. Shinpei, ever the skeptic, suspects she's a shadow with an identity crisis, believing she's the real Ushio. Ushio, like a drama queen, insists on a grand reunion with her friends and family, but Shinpei, in a fit of frustration, firmly says no. Then Mio calls, and in a classic sitcom moment, Ushio answers before Shinpei can intervene, forcing him into an impromptu acting gig to lie to Mio. Shinpei, playing the role of a secretive guardian, keeps Ushio hidden and meets Mio at the shrine. The plot takes a romantic detour when Su, in a moment of boldness or perhaps foolishness, confesses his love to Mio, only to be rejected. It's like watching a rom-com where the sidekick doesn't get the girl. In a scene straight out of a tragic play, Ushio reveals herself only to be heartbroken when Mio, thinking she's a shadow, calls her a monster. In a shocking turn of events, Shinpei reveals he's actually Shadow Shinpei, scolds Ushio like a stern parent, and then, in a move that would make villains blush, breaks her wrist. Rewind to 10 minutes earlier. Shinpei discovers Shadow Mio and a copycat Shadow Shinpei, who's been busy downloading Shinpei's memories. The shadowy doppelganger learns about Shinpei's time-looping antics, and decides to keep him alive to avoid messing with the timeline. Just when things couldn't get more dramatic, the woman from the ferry makes a cinematic entrance and saves the day by shooting Shadow Mio in the head, adding a dose of action movie flair to this already wild story. Shadow Mio vanishes into thin air, and in steps Nagumo Ruonosuke, introducing herself as Shinpei's savior. She spills the beans on how to spot shadows. It's all about the shadow flat on the ground, not the fake body doing its best impersonation above. Shinpei, now with this new intel, dashes to the shrine, only to find a scene straight out of a horror movie. Everyone's been wiped out by a giant shadow. This giant shadow, who seems to have skipped subtlety classes, points out Shinpei's eye as the eye of their mother, a time-controlling marvel. Meanwhile, Shadow Ushio, in a rebellious teenager phase, insists she's as human as they come and gives her fellow shadows the cold shoulder. Mio, in a dramatic exit, is disintegrated into oblivion. In a grandiose display of power, the giant shadow absorbs its shadowy comrades and then goes on a disintegrating spree, turning every human on the island into dust. As if that's not enough, Mother decides to join the party, awakening as a red light appears over the shrine, revealing herself as a young girl named Hain, recognized by Nagumo. With the island turned into a ghost town, Shinpei, in a desperate bid for a do-over, begs Nagumo to shoot him. Just as Giant Shadow tries to play the spoil sport, Shadow Ushio steps in, holding him off. Nagumo, in a moment that's half heroic declaration, half promise for a sequel, shoots Shinpei in the head, vowing to save him next time. As Shinpei time travels, Ushio's voice echoes once again, reminding him to save Mio. But there's a catch. Each trip back in time is cutting his journey shorter. He now reappears not on the ferry or the docks, but almost at Mio's house, with the timer on Mother's resurrection ticking down. With only 3 days left and his time travel distance shrinking, Shinpei gears up for what seems like the final showdown, determined to get it right and save the day, in a plot twist that would make any time travel movie proud. In this latest rewind of events, Nagumo arrives on the island, already clued in about the eerie presence of shadows. At the funeral, the island priest Karakiri Masahito greets her, but not as Nagumo Ruonosuke. He knows her as Minakata Hizuru, hinting at a mysterious past where she grew up on the island. Shinpei, now more determined than ever to set things right, employs Nagumo's clever trick to spot shadows. At the funeral, he uncovers a chilling truth. Shiori and her parents are not who they seem to be, they're all shadows. In a twist that feels like solving a spy puzzle, Shinpei gets Nagumo's phone number from Ushio's father Alan, hidden in a code. But when he dials the number, it's not Nagumo who answers, but her island contact, Nezu Jinjuru. To confirm Shinpei's humanity, Nezu conducts a rather unconventional test. He shoots Shinpei's shadow, a move that proves Shinpei is not a shadow. Meanwhile, Nagumo, in a scene that could rival a suspense thriller, confronts Alan in the bathroom. In a surprise attack, she smashes his shadow with a hammer, instantly annihilating Shadow Alan. Shinpei then meets Nezu, who, having tested Shinpei's humanity, trusts him and introduces him to Nagumo. Using coded language, Shinpei communicates key facts to Nagumo, cleverly revealing that he's a time traveler who has met her in the future. Nagumo quickly catches on, realizing Shinpei is someone her future self trusted. Shinpei breaks down in tears, relieved to finally have an ally who understands the entire bizarre saga. Nagumo confides in Shinpei about a tragic past. 14 years ago, a shadow mercilessly took her family's lives, leading her to leave the island and assume a new identity. She later channeled her harrowing experience into a series of books, a cathartic endeavor to cope with her loss. Nezu chips in with a crucial piece of shadow lore. Killing a shadow that has copied someone permanently prevents that person from being copied again. This revelation sets the stage for Nagumo's mission to Shiori's home, where she plans to eliminate Shadow Shiori and her shadow parents, effectively ending their threat. Shinpei, observing Nagumo, suspects that the trauma of her family's death caused her to develop dual personalities. He theorizes that one is Hizuru, the sister who turned her pain into books, and the other is her deceased younger brother, Runosuke. It's a coping mechanism as complex as it is heartbreaking. The plan unfolds. Nagumo eliminates the shadow parents, while Nezu and Shinpei set a trap for Shadow Shiori. Caught, she confesses to being Ushio's killer and hints at a larger plan, one that promises her and her family a chance to return home. Nagumo, unflinching, ends her. Nagumo then confirms Shinpei's theory about her dual personalities. Most of the time, she is Hizuru, but in moments of overwhelming emotion or during combat, Runosuke emerges. They use the alias Nagumo to blend their identities and communicate through recorded messages, an ingenious yet poignant system. Back at home, Shinpei notices a subtle yet significant change. Mio is cooking, something she never does. This deviation alerts Shinpei that his actions have altered the course of events. As he attempts to steer things back to normal by sending Mio out of the room, Shadow Ushio makes a sudden, unexpected appearance. Shinpei is taken aback when Shadow Ushio shows up earlier than expected. She's got memories of the previous loop and is on a mission to prevent the catastrophic aftermath of Mother's resurrection. In a comical hide-and-seek moment, she takes refuge in Shinpei's room to avoid Mio. While Shadow Ushio is munching away, Shinpei tests her shadowy nature by poking her shadow, much to her surprise. She reacts, confirming she's a shadow. Shinpei gears up to destroy her, but finds himself unable to go through with it, showcasing his softer side. Then, in a hilariously awkward moment, Shadow Ushio accidentally makes her clothes vanish, forcing her to don Shinpei's spare clothes. She also discovers that she lacks the typical shadow ability to retreat into her shadow, adding to her unique quirks. The situation escalates when Shadow Mio barges in and launches an attack. Ushio, in a heroic gesture, shields Shinpei. Shadow Mio stabs her own shadow to wound Ushio and demands to know why she's betrayed their kind. Ushio's reply is straight out of a romantic drama. She loves Shinpei. Just in the nick of time, Nezu, perched like a sniper in an action movie, takes his shot at Shadow Mio, giving Shinpei the chance to destroy her shadow. Nagumo arrives on the scene and, after ensuring Mio is safe, sets her sights on Ushio. Shinpei, in a heartfelt plea, begs for Ushio's life. In a twist, Nagumo recognizes Ushio's voice as the one that led her to the island. They attempt to treat Ushio's vanishing arm, adding a surreal element to the scene. Nagumo plays a voicemail where Ushio's voice had warned her about the shadows and vouched for Shinpei. Ushio, however, has no recollection of this or of Nagumo. Nagumo and Nezu decide to spare Ushio, but issue a stern warning. Any misstep, and it's game over for her. The next day, Shinpei and Ushio reveal her existence to Sue, who reacts with a mix of horror and disbelief. They then give Ushio her phone, and she unlocks it to find a video recorded on the day she died. The video is like watching a buddy movie, but with a supernatural twist. It features Ushio and Shadow Ushio, not as foes but as pals. Ushio, ever the pragmatic one, knew her days were numbered and wanted Shinpei to understand that Shadow Ushio isn't the villain of this story. She shares a bit of Shadow lore, explaining that the first Shadow on the scene was Shiori's, with Shadow Ushio making her debut shortly after. The duo then turned detectives, tracking Shadow Shiori to the island's old, abandoned clinic, which used to be run by Sue's father, Sato. It's like an episode of Scooby-Doo, but with more existential dread. There, they encountered another Shadow trying to clone Ushio. In a dramatic scuffle, the Shadow attacks Shadow Ushio, hitting her shadow and inadvertently revealing her true nature. In a triumphant moment, they defeat the new Shadow. The video concludes with them recording the message for Shinpei, a clever contingency plan where Shadow Ushio's fingerprint is the key to unlocking the phone. Shadow Ushio, in a mix of nostalgia and sadness, then plays a recording of her memories showing what transpired on the day Ushio drowned. In a tragic twist, they were trying to protect Shiori from Shadow Shiori, but failed. Shadow Shiori then killed Ushio, and in a moment of determination, Shadow Ushio vowed to help Shinpei save everyone before the ominous date of the 24th, when Mother returns. In a startling development, Shadow Ushio realizes her memories have been tampered with. Suddenly, the memory of Shadow Shiori comes to life, attacking Shinpei and transforming into Mother, who menacingly promises Shinpei won't escape her clutches again. It's like a horror movie scene with a tech twist. The recording ends, but the horror doesn't. Shinpei wakes up with a hand-shaped bruise where Mother grabbed him in the recording, a chilling reminder that this bizarre ordeal is far from over and dangerously real. Shinpei, always ready to dive into the next mystery, decides it's time to revisit the old clinic. Meanwhile, a police officer named Miura, who seems more curious than your average cop, approaches Mio and her friend Takiko, inquiring about Shiori's family. It's like a scene from a detective show, but with more teenage angst. At the clinic, Sue stumbles upon old bottles of mercuric chloride, a toxic medicine that screams bad news in big, bold letters. In a more historical twist, he discovers a wooden statue of Abisu, the god of fishermen. But wait, there's a catch. This statue is female. Shinpei, putting on his mythologist hat, realizes it actually depicts Abisu in his leech-like, androgynous birth form, blending a bit of folklore with their eerie adventure. Their exploration leads them to a secret door, but alas, no key. Shinpei, in a moment of insight, figures out that the statue, depicting Haruko as pregnant, might be more than meets the eye. Shadow Ushio, playing the part of a treasure hunter, finds the key hidden inside the statue's stomach, because where else would you hide a key in a creepy old clinic? Inside, they discover a tunnel, a perfect hideout for sneaky shadows. They encounter a shadow with the body of a deformed baby because apparently this adventure wasn't spooky enough. After a tense battle, they manage to defeat it. Then, in a twist of fate, Shadow Ushio starts bleeding, realizing the injury from Shadow Mio wasn't really healed. It was just swept under the rug, metaphorically speaking. Her shadow body is still seriously injured, adding a sense of urgency to their quest. Their exploration is interrupted by a sudden gunshot. Following the sound through the tunnel, they end up in a natural cave. But it's not the tranquil, stalactite-filled kind of cave. Shadow Ushio panics as they realize they've walked into a nest of hundreds of shadow babies, surrounding them in a scene that would make any horror movie proud. It's like they've stumbled into a shadowy nursery from hell. In the sewers, Nezu and Nagumo gear up for what seems like a descent into the underworld. Meanwhile, Shadow Shiori, Master of Deception, makes simultaneous appearances to Mio and Tetsu. With Shiori officially a missing child, Tetsu, bound by duty and perhaps curiosity, has no choice but to follow her. Back in the cave, Shinpei and the crew face off against the shadow babies in a scene that's part action, part horror. After their victory, Shinpei notices the cave is not just any cave, it's covered in coral and connected to the ocean, adding an aquatic twist to their shadowy adventure. Ushio's arm, a ticking time bomb of shadowy decay, worsens. In a desperate move, she deletes her damaged arm to halt the pain, a digital solution to a supernatural problem. Then, in a surprise twist, Takiko pops up like a guest star in an episode of a mystery series. Nezu, putting together the pieces of the puzzle, realizes they're in the legendary Haruko Cave, a historic site connected to the deity Haruko and sealed off during the First Sino-Japanese War. Just as they're piecing things together, they spot Mio and Tetsu. In a heroic decision, they resolve to save them. Shinpei, thinking he's got the hang of this shadow business, tries to shoot Takiko's shadow, only to find out she's human, a classic case of mistaken identity. The plot takes a darker turn as Sue's father is revealed to be in cahoots with the shadows, feeding Officer Miura's body to them. Sue, in a moment of shocking realization, understands that his father and sister are both aligned with the shadows. Nezu and Nagumo then encounter Shadow Shiori, who turns out to be Mother, disguised as Shiori. Nagumo, recognizing her as Hain, greets her, adding a layer of familiarity to the confrontation. Giant Shadow, not one for pleasantries, appears and takes down Nezu and seriously injures Nagumo. Takiko, deciding it's time for some truths, asks Shinpei to keep a secret from Mio no matter what unfolds. She leads them to a shrine where they find Hain receiving medical treatment, a revelation that blurs the lines between friend and foe, human and shadow. Takiko unveils a macabre family secret. Hain, who is actually Haruko, has been sustained for generations by her family, who have dutifully fed her dead bodies from their clinic. In a gruesome display of loyalty, Hain devours the body of Miura and nearly consumes Ushio's body, which, unbeknownst to her, had been replaced with a fake prior to cremation. Takiko confesses her servitude to Hain stems from a promise to resurrect their deceased mother once Hain regains her full powers. In a daring move, Shinpei and Shadow Ushio manage to retrieve Ushio's body. Using it, Shadow Ushio scans and repairs her damaged arm, showcasing a blend of supernatural abilities and technological prowess. Shinpei, in an act of desperation, tries to shoot Hain, but Giant Shadow intervenes, capturing Mio and gruesomely severing Shinpei's fingers. The betrayal escalates as Giant Shadow turns on Takiko, shooting both her and Sue in a shocking twist of loyalty. Meanwhile, Tetsu finds the injured Nagumo, who, with her last strength, asks him to bring her to Shinpei. In a dramatic confrontation, Hain removes her eye from Shinpei's head, but it mysteriously returns to him. Instead, she captures Shadow Ushio, intending to reprogram her. Giant Shadow unveils a critical revelation. Shinpei's power allows him to view multiple potential timelines and select one to render into reality, but it only activates upon experiencing brain death. They plan to keep him alive to exploit this ability. In a tragic turn, Giant Shadow murders Mio. As Tetsu arrives with Nagumo, she tries to shoot Shinpei, only for Giant Shadow to kill her instead. In a desperate act, Shinpei swallows the mercuric chloride, opting for self-termination to escape the nightmare. Amidst the chaos, Shadow Ushio begins to resist Hain's control, fighting back with newfound strength. As Giant Shadow moves to eliminate her, Shinpei's time-traveling power activates. In a dramatic reversal of time, Shadow Ushio and Shinpei are pulled back to their earlier meeting with Nagumo and Nezu, where Shinpei first convinced Nagumo of his time-traveling ability. This return to the past presents a new opportunity for Shinpei and Shadow Ushio to alter the grim sequence of events. Shinpei and Ushio find themselves in a unique position, having looped back to the moment when Shinpei first disclosed his time-traveling capabilities to Hizuru and Nezu. Hizuru, putting the pieces together, realizes that Shinpei's looping ability bestowed upon him by Ushio is derived from shadows. United by this revelation, they form a pact to work together until the end, vowing to avoid any more failures. Ushio, contributing her part, shares her memories from previous loops, providing valuable insights into their surreal journey. Elsewhere, Sue attempts to connect with his father Sato, but is met with dismissal, adding a layer of personal struggle to the overarching supernatural conflict. The group, consisting of Shinpei, Ushio, Hizuru, and Nezu, heads to the Kobayakawa household, anticipating a repeat of their previous victory. However, they are met with an unexpected and sinister ambush. Hain and Shide, the formidable four-armed shadow, are already there, waiting for them. In a brutal turn of events, Hizuru is violently thrown through a window, and her demise is swiftly followed by the crushing of her head, while Nezu suffers a fatal piercing. Hain reveals a chilling advantage. The mark on Shinpei allows them to track him through all his loops, effectively looping alongside him. As the shadows close in on capturing Shinpei, Ushio makes a drastic move by decapitating him, a desperate attempt to trigger another loop. But instead of an immediate loop back, Shinpei and Ushio find themselves in a memory from 14 years ago, witnessing a moment in Hizuru's life with her brother Runosuke. They follow the siblings to the Kofyun restaurant, where Shinpei is greeted by the surreal sight of his parents alive, socializing with Karakiri and Alan. In a twist of fate, young Hizuru shares with Runosuke and Asako, her best friend, about a new friend she made on Takanasu Mountain. Driven by curiosity, they venture out in the rain to the mountain, eventually arriving at the old Hishigata clinic. Here, Hizuru reveals the identity of her mysterious friend. It's Hain, waiting for them inside the clinic,